Thank you, Vaishali ji. It has been pleasure with you and all of the seekers here, and as well as those who are watching on Zoom. First of all, I thank you, the Sri Ashram Trust chairman and the Sri Regis Service and Vaishali ji both for enabling me to present this sessions. This is today's auspicious day for me, being my birthday. So it has been great with all of you to be present this session, okay, and introduce you the integral yoga in a new way of looking at it, how we can understand the whole concept of integral yoga and Sri Aurobindo's writing in it. So the purpose of these two books is we'll go through this entire presentation. The presentation is spread over three sessions, and it will be presented on 16th, 17th, and 23rd of this month. So we will go through, first we will establish our basis for these explorations, okay, and then we will get into the actual explorations, which will deep dive into the concepts of integral yoga, what Sri Aurobindo has presented in his voluminous writings. And so we will get to know all these things and we will understand it from the scientific way also. So it will be good for those who are having scientific setup mind, okay, so to understand and analyze these things. And they can get into it for the further explorations and getting benefit of all the writings of Sri Aurobindo. So we will begin our journey with first of all establishing the context, as I said, okay, and the part one is dedicated for that. That is, we will see the science and consciousness, and then we explore the basic concepts what are useful for us in this. To begin with, we'll first have know who is Sri Aurobindo, little bit of introduction, because some of those who are watching here, okay, or on the online, may not be aware about the integral yoga and Sri Aurobindo. So I will have a very brief introduction, okay, and more of that you can find on Sri Aurobindo's ashram sites, and many of the literature is available there. Okay. Then we'll go to the need of the explorations, why these explorations are required actually. After that, we'll find out what is the science concepts which are useful for us in elaborating or understanding the integral yoga what Sri Aurobindo has introduced. We will have a brief comparison of the traditional yoga because traditional yoga has been in this land for the thousands of years and many of us are are known to these yogas in the different names. So we'll see that how integral yoga is different from this traditional yoga. After that, we'll dive into the chakras and consciousness, which are the key things for the getting into this journey. Then we'll see the supermind and its gradations, and the supermind is the concept what we'll come to know given as we move on. So man is only a transitional being living in a mental consciousness, but with the possibility of acquiring new consciousness, the truth consciousness, it is capable of living a life perfectly harmonious, good, beautiful, happy, and full conscious. This is what Sri Aurobindo has said. So, who was Sri Aurobindo? So, a little bit of introduction. He was born in Kolkata in August 15th. Yesterday we celebrated his birthday, and nationwide the celebrations were there. And we also witnessed two beautiful movies at the center and released from Pondicherry Ashram. Okay. So the new dawn and the his vision or his dreams, what we see in yesterday's release movie. So he was a radical freedom fighter. Many of us we might be knowing it as a freedom fighter because he fought very aggressively. He was radical and in the freedom fighter movement which was happening at that time. So, but that was only one part of his life. Okay. He was not only that, but he was a writer, poet, and then later he became a great spiritual yogi who revolutionized the whole things of yoga. So he explored his Vedas, Upanishads, Gita, and many other ancient scripture, okay, to discover, rediscover the path which was established by our Vedic rishis. And after that, he introduced the new concept. He took out some traditional yoga methods, practices himself, what the experiences of the rest of the rest experiences like nirvana and the divine everywhere and the Krishna consciousness. And with that, he further deep dive and went ahead in bringing the new consciousness on this earth atmosphere, establishing it on the earth, which he called the supermind. In his journeys, when Sri studied the Vedas and the Upanishad and the Vedic scriptures, he realized that the traditional yoga's concept of moksha and going away of life is not the aim of the life. And that is why he discarded this concept and put forward the interior law of transformation, which he will go through it, that what are those things that he introduced to us as a gift of to the humanity. So with his integral yoga, he says that there is possibility to open oneself to the higher divine consciousness. Right now, the humanity is at the level of mental mind. So he introduced the new concept saying that this mind is not the end of it, and there is a higher consciousness waiting up above us, waiting for manifesting here. And that is why there is a possibility that one can transcend to that higher consciousness, which is called the supermind, and remain constant with the union, bring down that higher force, light, power, and bliss to transform the entire mind, life, and body. And this is possible at every individual level, so that the whole humanity and the entire earth consciousness can be transformed. In his journey, he was associated by the mother. Mother was born Mira Alcasa on February 21st, 1878 in France, Paris. And he was a spiritual collaborator who worked with him and helped him for descent of and establishment of the supramental force on the earth. And later on worked towards the cellular transformation, the last mile of the transforming the human body and the material plane. So this is how Stirwin did his extensive sadhana to bring down the truth consciousness, the supramental consciousness, and realize the transformation aim. And he declared that all life is yoga. The yoga doesn't start or with only sitting for meditation in one room, but the entire life, whatever you are doing in your day-to-day life, that itself is yoga. Everybody is embarked on this journey, knowingly or unknowingly. But if you do it consciously, then it will be great transformation or the great advancement that one can get, because one understand what is it and then implementing it in life, you can realize those aims. So, as per Mother Sri Aurobindo is not just representing the words history, is not a teaching, it is not a revelation, but it is a direct decisive action from the Supreme. And that's how Sri Mother describes Sri Aurobindo, that it is a direct action from the divine to realize its manifestation dreams on this earth atmosphere. So we'll take a quick look at the Sri Aurobido's journey in his life, okay, so that you know about it. So he was born in Calcutta, as I said, 15th August 1872, and to his father Krishnadan Ghosh, and who was a medical officer, and then the Swarnalata Devi mother. Early schooling was done in Darjeeling, but at the age of 7, he was taken back to UK for with elder brothers, so that his father was actually a doctor, and he was very much influenced by the Western culture and the learnings. Okay, he thought that it is good for Sri Aurobindo and his brothers to grow into that atmosphere and not to have any impact of the Indian culture on him. So that's why he was taken there. Okay, and then he studied his schooling in St. Paul's School in London, learned many languages like Latin, German, Spanish, Greek. After that, he graduated from the King's College and passed out the ICS, the Indian Civil Service exam, which was there equivalent to the today's IS exam. But he didn't appear for the last fast writing exam so that he can skip the British servicing, as he did not wanted to know, because by that time he got to know about how the British were ruling India and how they were and the Indian freedom movement he was a part of. By that time, he had started acting as a member of Anushandan Samiti and the secret society Lotus and Dagger for the liberation of India. His next phase started when he moved to India. Okay, came back in 1893. He joined on the invitation of the Gaikwads of Baroda. He joined his land and revenue settlement department. Worked there for about 10 years, and he did a lot of reformations in the state. Okay, at the same time, he was also a lecturer in the and vice principal of the college teaching French and English. Then from 1902, he started actively taking participation in the trading movement and led the protest in Bengal in 1905 split. And he was also the president of the Congress, Surat Congress, which was in 1907, in which the Congress got split into a radical and the other part. In his journey, he also studied the Vedic literature. Remember, the Sri Aurobindo was taken at the age of 7 only to UK and he didn't have any impact of the Indian culture. So he has to even learn his mother tongue, Bengali. After coming back, he learned that, he learned Sanskrit, then he dig down into the Vedic literature. In 1908, he got the he was introduced to a yogi called Vishnu Bhaskar Lele, a Maharashtrian yogi who had directed him for meditation. He sat with him and he got the experience of nirvana in just 3 days of sitting meditation with him, which is the rarest of rare experience which a yogi spent lifetime on it. Further, in 1908, he was since he was involved in the freedom fighter movement, he British were actually were very much after him, and he was arrested in 1908 in Alipur bombs case, and he was taken to jail where he got the vision of Sri Krishna, who directed him for his next work for the humanity, which and asked him to leave all the political life and move to the remote location Pondicherry, which was under the French control that time. So his journey in yoga started. It was already started, but it took shape in 1910 to 26 in Pondicherry. He sailed to Pondicherry on 4th April, and after that he spent his lifetime staying in Ash in its location Pondicherry, where his residence is now converted as a Yoga ashram, and there is Samadhi also for so those who can visit there will find it the whole thing. In his stay, he did a lot of writings, launched the Arya Monthly, and in Mother arrived in Pondicherry and met him in 2014 for the short durations he stayed there. But because of the war conditions in 1914, she has to leave and when she went back. But she again came back in 1920 and joined him for the mission. His book, the famous book, Synthesis of Yoga and the Life Divine Cross or the Light during this period, and it was his writing in Arya which was later on converted into those books and got published. After the final arrival of Mother on 24th April 1920, Mother worked with him day and night, and then she had the Overmind Foundation formation in 1926, and the actual Krishna consciousness happened. The Lord Krishna consented to collaborate with this work and descended in his body. And 1926 onward, he the Lord Krishna directed him for the further announcement in yoga to bring down the supramental force on this earth. The stage of 1926 to 1950 saw a lot of things. Okay, so Mother established the ashram in now 24th November 1926, so that there will be a base for the seekers and followers who were there at the time. Okay, and we grew further, and she also established the city called Arrowville, which was the world city. He has written many books like Upanishads, Aces of Gita, collected poems, Human Cycle, Secret of Veda. So all sort of human life he has written, which will be tremendous and which will be a very useful work you can go through. With the most fundamental or most important contribution of Sri Aurobindo in his whole journey is the bringing of the supermind or the supramental consciousness. As we saw that there is multiple layers of consciousness and above mind there is a higher consciousness. Sri Aurobindo realized that this can be brought only down and the humanity can be transformed to the higher evolution only with the help of the supermind. And that is where he wanted this higher consciousness to get down onto the earth so that it can do the work of transformation. In 1950, the supramental descent happened in his body, and he completed his the epic poem Savitri by that time, which is the Savitri, a legend and symbol, which is his own journey. It's written in a symbolic way. Okay. And this is the largest poem, about 26,000 lines in the of work. So 1950, when he realized that the supermind got into his body, but it couldn't stay because of the Earth's atmosphere was not ready, and so he has to withdraw physically, and he went into the subtle, and then from there he worked towards the actual establishment of the supermind on the Earth consciousness, and Mother assisted him for all these things. And with their efforts, the supermind actually descended on this Earth on 1956. So we'll just summarize. So this was the whole journey in a nutshell, but we'll just summarize the key experiences what he got in this journey. Like initial experiences he got in 1993 when he first landed in the Apollo Bandar, when he stepped and experienced the vast comet which descended on him. He also got the vision of Godhead surging up within when he was in the danger in carriage accident in Baroda in the first year of his stay. Later, he also got the realizing of the vacant infinite while walking on the reach of the Takht Suleiman in Kashmir, where he visited along with the Maharaj of Gaikwad. He also experienced the presence of Kali in the shrine on the banks of Narmada. So these were some initial experiences he got. In 1908, he got the realization of the Brahman along when he sat with Vishnu Bhaskar Rele, and he got the realization of the Nirvana at that time. In 1908, when he was in Alipur jail, he got the Sri Krishna's darshan, and it was the divine everywhere experience, which was the rarest of the rare. In 1926, he got the actual descent of Krishna, and Krishna incarnated in his body, he merged with his body so that the sadhana can be taken to the higher level. And in 1938 also he got this prominent relation. In 1950 got the descent in his body, physical body, and after that in 1956 he got further establishment done on the Earth atmosphere. So the most important, as I said, that supramental consciousness which happened after the Krishna consciousness descended in his body, and with his further sadhana of from 1926 to 1950. The supramental came to the earth and stayed here forever, doing the transformation. These are his couple of books which he has written lifetime, and this is only two books I could put it here. Okay, so there are total 36 volumes available online, and the readers or those interested in seekers of yoga can go through this and take the advantage of the large literature or his because his literatures are not easy to understand. Okay, it's a deep meaning in each his statement sentences, and it requires not only the reading but the contemplation of what he is saying in those things. Now, this is what we have seen that how Sri and about a little bit about the yoga and his journey. Now, having said, what is the need of the exploration of writing in these two books? We have seen those books just now. So, Mystery of Consciousness and the Integral Yoga and the Ascent of Consciousness. These are the two books which are the part of my explorations. This is the work actually, which is the research of my journey in this Integral Yoga, which I put into as a form of the two books. The need of the exploration, we will just understand a little bit. So we will go a little bit on the now the scientific way of what science is doing parallelly on this side. So for science, the consciousness is a hard problem. They do not understand that how consciousness arises. They think that it doesn't arise from the brain, but but they do not understand how the binding problems is created that then gives the reality of the entire universe or the by joining the various signals reaching to the brain. It do not know how the first person and third person viewpoints we get inside the brain. So they stuck with this and they found that it is difficult to solve and they gave it the term called hard problem consciousness, which was coined by David Sharma. And they are still struggling to find out the reason. The neuroscience, there are many researches being conducted in psychology, neuroscience, or even the quantum physics to find out the nature and functioning of the consciousness. But still they are struggling to do that. The neuroscientists, as I said, are struggling that how the consciousness is being derived or is an expression of the physical nervous system, because we know that how our senses works. The brain gets the signals from various our five senses, and then we get the experience of actual physical reality. But those electrical signals, how brain is able to translate into this experience is not known, and they are still struggling to find it out, and they are trying to come out with the various theories saying the microtubules, or they're saying that the proteins around the microtubules is giving these experiences, or even there is a quantum field generated which gives it. So all those things are happening actually currently. If you do the Google search on the consciousness, it's about 1.87 billion results, and Amazon has listed that 26,000 books are available on the subjects. There are a lot of articles, blogs, seminars, conferences happening to dig out what is consciousness and to solve the hard problem of consciousness. So this is one aspect of elaborating the what consciousness is through the integral yoga, because integral yoga has given us the entire details about the consciousness and the layers of consciousness, multiple layers of the consciousness, and what is the characteristics and the futures of all those layers. And it has gone much way beyond about it. All that thing is explained into the integral yoga, which we will go through this presentation. For the spiritual seekers, it is another problem that many seekers do not understand what integral yoga is. Even after they are following this yoga, it is difficult to understand what are the different things they taught into it. It is difficult to read these here because it is written in the higher language, and then his texts are so vast that to make sense of it, some of these sentences go entire page, and so one get lost into it. So it is difficult to understand all those things. Then typically one will not find the methods, and then to guru also to guide all these things. Okay, there are only the seekers and the followers of the yoga, and they struggle for this that oh, how should I proceed on this. Then there are a couple of concepts, integral yoga includes like consciousness, evolution, surrender, so all those things, the transformation. So what does it mean actually? What is supermind? What is transformation? So all those concepts are actually boggling into the seeker's mind, and then it gets stuck actually. Okay, so these books, the reason for presenting these books, that is the mystery of consciousness, today's presentation and the follow-up sessions, will be giving the answers to all these things and decode the occult meaning and the truth of Sri Aurobindo's writing in integral yoga, and decoding the secret of consciousness and the manifestation. So this is my humble effort to present you all these things so that you get aware of all these things, and your journey in the yoga can be much more fruitful. So these two books will provide a summarized view of integral yoga and its key teaching and knowledge embedded in it in easy word and with a scientific analysis. So there are two approaches I have taken for putting all these things. One is that a lot of things which Sri Aurobindo had introduced, I have compiled it together, okay, in a different way, okay, and I have put it in easier words so that one can understand it. And the most important is for all our scientific mind, I have put up the scientific analogies to understand it and how we can visualize what Sri is saying. Whatever Sri is saying in each and every sentence is not just to read, but one has to contemplate, one has to imagine, he has to visualize, so that he will get to the cusp of it. And that is what the mystery of consciousness and these two books will do. So it will be useful for both integral yoga seekers as well as the scientists, neuroscientists, and the quantum computer because they will find the way from this exploration that it can be utilized for their own research work. So these are the two books. The book one, The Mystery of Consciousness, it will give you the basic about the traditional yoga, the key concept in integral yoga, then the science behind which I utilize for doing the exploration and present a new perspective. And then from after establishing this, we will go into actual exploration in integral yoga through the chakras, consciousness, planes of consciousness, supermind, the gradations of the supermind, and then the secret of manifestation. So this is the first book covers. The book two is further deep diving into this integral yoga, presenting the entire ontology of integral yoga, the psychic being, the concepts of psychic being, what here we introduced, and then how the psychic being is the one behind this entire yoga of transformation. We will go through the yoga of transformation, what is meant by transformation, what are the different methods of transformation. Then we will understand what is the supermind, the sense of supermind, how our mind works and how the supermind works, the supramental vision. Then the book has got the transformation of matter, that how the transformation of matter has happened and what is the mother's contribution for that. It will also elaborate the secret of transformation and then finally the descent of the consciousness and how it is analyzed by understanding of integral yoga and also the new perspective which I am going to present now. So to begin with, we will first understand the little bit of scientific concept, what the science has discovered so far, and then we'll try to get into the integral yoga of exploration of integral yoga. So as we saw a little bit that science is also struggling to find out the reason of consciousness, how we get the consciousness in our mind, and they are doing a lot of research in this field. They have discovered the God particle, Higgs boson particle. They have put up the Big Bang theory, and so they are trying to reach the deeper understanding and coming closer to the truth, which was already discovered by our spiritual science and the ancient Indian sages, thousands of years back. So what Sri Aurobindo did is that he rediscovered those things present in to this humanity, and then he went ahead of that, bringing down the higher consciousness, the supermind, and then giving the way of transformation of this world. So as we know that science is actually takes the path of observations, do the experimentations, and discuss the various secrets of the nature, whereas spirituality works on more introspective and subjective approach, going inside deeper, taking the deeper experiences from the different perspective. So science decides mostly on the reason, the practical output of the experiments, whereas the spirituality works on the faith, mysticism, and the experiences. Now, the most important statement, which is the basis of all this thing, what we can see that Sri Aurobindo has stated in his writing, that universe is a rhythmic vibration in infinite existence which multiplies itself into many harmonies and holds them well ordered in the original type of motion. So this is the key of this whole concept of consciousness and the multiple layers of consciousness, what is presented into the integral yoga. So it is the rhythmic vibration into the infinite existence, which multiplies itself and creates multiple harmonics and hold it into various poises. Okay, so what science has found so far, that we will just take a look. So we are all aware about this radio frequency spectrum, and the science has found out that this radio frequency spectrum, there are various frequencies from few hertz to few gigahertz and beyond. And that those we are using it for different purposes in our life, like microwave, infrared, visible lights. These are the various ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma. So these are all the spectrum. They have named it actually. So these are all human construct what scientists had named. and they are using it for developing various scientific gadgets, as we can see. So we have seen these various gadgets developed by science, and we also have this entire spectrum, and we have a very small spectrum of that, which we know as the visible spectrum, okay, from red to ultraviolet blue, right, okay, and beyond that is ultraviolet, and which we cannot see, or the human eye is not able to see. So this is one thing. So I'm introducing the various concepts now, which are going to be useful for our exploration. That's why I'm getting into the scientific aspect of it. So as I said, the radio waves find applications in various fields like radio, TV, shortwave radios, and the navigation. So these are all things what we use in our day-to-day life, or we are aware of. So scientists have named it as HF, VHF, UHF, and they are used in FM radios, GPS, television, trunk radio systems. So all those things are established and well used in the by us. This is the typical radio transmitter diagram, which works from the like your audio signal, which is captured by the mic, is amplified, and then it is fed through the balance modulator. The signal is filtered, and then it is modulated to the mixer, and this modulated signal, that is, we call it as a carrier frequency, is transmitted to the RF power amplifier and the antenna system. So this typical radio transmitter is used in all the basics of all this, what is the gadgets what we use. The other receiver part of this is actually the counterpart of it is the receiver, where the receiving antenna receives the signals and then it filters it. This signal is very weak, it has to be boosted, it is amplified, and then it's mixed with the frequency synthesizer or crystal oscillator, generating the IF frequency. Then this modulated signal is further demodulated, and then audio, and that's how we get the audio output through our speaker. So this is the typical way of radio transmitter and receiver, how it works. And based on this, it is further evolved to very complex systems like the mobile communication what we use today. Now, the role of antenna is very important in the radio communication. There are various type of antennas developed by the my science, and we use those in various applications like dish antenna or the Yagi antenna or mobile whip antenna. This is the typical radiation pattern of the antenna, where the radio signal is plotted, and it can be seen as the spectrum of energy around this antenna. So this is different antenna patterns with respect to different type of antennas which are used by various type of radio systems. So antenna is a tuned element. It is tuned to the particular frequency to receive this to receive the higher frequency. So that is the fundamental use of the antenna, and the antenna pattern decides that how to receive or what frequency to receive, which depends upon the construction of the antenna. There are other concepts like antenna gain, radiation pattern, direct, etc., which are useful for the radio communication. This is the signal when we observe on the spectrum analyzer, which is the scientific equipment to visualize these radio frequencies, and this is how we get the tuned signal of the various frequencies when we observe on it. So this is the antenna is the key things which is used in the radio communication for receiving or transmitting the antenna. On the contrary, we also see the another revolution in science, that there is a PN semiconductor diode which was developed. Okay, after which we see the development in transistors which are used further, and we see the various technology, that is very large scale integration technology, further evolving into grade up to 4 nanometer or 1 nanometer, which is the gap between these semiconductor on the chip, making the billions and billions of mass semiconductor devices sitting inside the footprint of less than a 1 square centimeter. You can just imagine that within this 1 centimeter area, there are billions and billions of mass semiconductors which are used for the different purposes for constructing mainly microprocessor, microcontroller, system on chip, and whatnot, which are further used for the scientific gadgets and in different fields. So this is just a pictorial view of what is the SoC system on chip, and this is inside your mobile phone what is there. So this is a very complex system which science has discovered, and we are using all these things. But to present you, the most important part behind all this is the electromagnetic waves, which is the flow, which causes the flow of electrons between this, creating all these miracles. So these are the few concepts which we just saw, that is frequency spectrum, the radio communication, the antenna lobes, radiation pattern, the resonant filter circuit, and the various technology which we are going to use to establish our premises for putting the new perspective which we are going to understand the integral yoga. Now we'll just go back to our traditional yoga system to understand little bit of from their side. So as we know that Vedas and Upanishads, these are the hymns which has the higher knowledge which the rishis has received in their deep meditation, and they put it into the form of this Vedas or Upanishads, and which is available to us. But they are all symbolically a cryptic way of presenting from those sages, and which was difficult to understand over a period. So this has been broadly divided into two parts. Like ancient in this Indian scripture, we see that there are Shruti type of things and there is Smruti type of thing. The Shruti goes into Rigved. That is, Shruti means we are hearing it, and through hearing it has been transmitted or it has been preserved. So Rigveda, all four Vedas, okay, Upanishads, there are different Upanishads, about 108 Upanishads or even more are there. And then there are Smruti, we have the Ityas, like we have the our ancient epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Gita, and then we have the Dharma Shastra, Darshana Shastra, Upaveda, Puranas. So all these things is already available with India, okay, and this is available in all in the written format so that we can go through it. Over a period, there are different parts of traditional yoga which got established in this land, and we just summarize that like Tantra, Kundalini Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Kashmiri Shaivism, all Advaita Vedanta. These are all the different parts which traditional yoga evolved by using the one or the other way. Like Hatha Yoga or the Raj Yoga, they use body and prana as a key for opening the doors to the higher consciousness. So purpose of all these yoga systems was only one, that is opening to the higher consciousness and getting merged with it or with moksha. So we have the Kundalini Yoga, which use the or describe the process of rising the consciousness through the Kundalini awakening and opening of chakras in the body. So Patanjali Yoga Sutras are there, which gives the way of how to do this and how to arise your Kundalini so that you can get the experience of higher consciousness. There's Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. All these things have been given in these Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So traditional yoga system describes there are 7 chakras in the body. Associated, there are nadis, and they are all connected to the brain. And through this chakra, we get the higher consciousness. Then there is a specific number of petals also we see associated with these chakras, and there is a beach mantra. So all these things, all traditional yoga system teaches, and it is available to us. The traditional yoga system or the Kundalini yoga system is developed, and the chakras are opened from below, starting from Muladhara to the Sahasrara by using the deep meditation, will or concentration, or using the practice of or the Bij mantra or the practice of asana, pranama, bandha meditation. So all of these techniques available in the traditional yoga system. So this is the summarized view of how the traditional yoga system works. Okay, and we see that there are the purpose of the traditional yoga system is liberation of the soul, Kundalini everything, or merging with the divine. So the traditional yoga system stops at this, and the whole aim of the yoga, what is introduced with the traditional system, is to achieve this liberation. So there are 3 bodies they described, okay, physical body, astral body, or spiritual body. And then there are 5 koshas, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanmaya, or Anandmaya koshas. And 3 main Nadi, Dida, Pingala, Sushumna. With the help of all these systems, this yoga gives the path and the way to establish the our union with the divine. So this is how we get the awareness about the world through this yoga. Like as we see that physical senses through the nadis carry the signals to brain, and then you can see the physical world around us, the material world. Whereas if you are able to open these chakras, then you can see the higher world or get the word or the awareness about the higher consciousness and the higher words through this Kundalini opening or the chakra openings. There is a lot of research being carried out in this traditional yoga systems. The Swami Purnananda from Bengal gives the first time in 1577 the detailed description of his the seven chakra in his book called Shata Chakra Nirupana. Then Swami Satyananda Saraswati from the Bihar School of Yoga, he has also done a great research work, and his work on the chakras and Kundalini Yoga is available, providing the ancient wisdom. The Western philosophers like John Woodrow, he presented his work in the serpent power, the C.W. Leadbeater in his chakras. They also studied this system and they introduced this system to the Western world so that the Western world get to know when the British came to India. The Japanese scientist Dr. Hiroshi Motoyama, he has gone further ahead inventing, he has put his theory into theory of chakras, the book he has written, and he conducted extensive research and also developed the equipment called the apparatus for meridian identification to measure the vital energy around the body due to chakras and nadi opening. Then there is a Kirlian photography also developed by science which can measure the aura of the body, and this aura is they have developed the science of analyzing the aura and how it can be used for the wellness. So for example, the aura of the body can be used to detect the body illness well before it arrives us. Even 6 months prior to actual you are getting ill, you can know about that illness by analyzing the aura. So that is the beauty of this aura, and Kirlian photography can be useful. So now we have seen the three things. We have seen the need of this exploration. We have seen the science view, the scientific way of analyzing the things, and we have also seen the traditional yoga. Now let us take a little bit of integral yoga ontology so that the viewers will understand what is integral yoga, so that then we are best prepared for our explorations. So as we see that Sri Aurobindo discarded traditional yoga views and the concept of living the terrestrial life and achieving the moksha as the ultimate goal. So he gave the integral yoga for the world of transformation of this material world into the higher divine world. So for that, he got first the state of nirvana, then he realized the Krishna consciousness, and finally resolved the divine manifestation and the creation by descending of the supermind. So entire life of Sri Aurobindo he spent on working for this and getting that supermind onto this material plane so that the humanity can be benefited to transform this world. This is the model what he has presented. So the model based on his the Vedic traditions also. Okay, and what we see this the model is actually divided into two hemispheres, the upper hemisphere and the lower hemisphere. And on the upper hemisphere, we see the planes of Satchitananda. That is, these three planes are from the higher hemisphere. The lower hemisphere forms are mind, vital, and matter. And in between there is a plane of supermind. So this is the model what he has presented to us. The upper hemisphere Satchitananda plane is eternal. It is existence consciousness bliss in English. So it is eternal, timeless, and spaceless. So it is beyond the time and space. Whereas the lower hemisphere, which consists of the mind, vital, and matter, works in unfolds itself in the time and space, and that's how we can see the physical material world, and there is the world of belonging to vital or the mental. Whereas the supermind is the middle plane which joins the two hemispheres, and it is the supermind which is the creator of this world, which has worked for the manifestation of this, and which is also going to work for the transformation of this world. So Sri Aurobindo describes that consciousness is the most fundamental thing from which everything else is evolved or emerged in the existence. It is the energy that creates the universe and everything in it. Everything is the entire material universe consisting of this what we see around us and what is going to come after the realization of the supermind. This is the aim of integral yoga, what Sri Aurobindo has presented in his writings, that the true aim of integral yoga is first to evolve our present mind consciousness to overmind and then to supermind. We will see all those layers or all those layers of consciousness, what he has introduced in a short time. So what he says that the first aim is to transform our present mind into higher mind, that is, and then to our mind, and then to the super mind, so that one can get connected with the transcendent divine. So the aim is to first rise from ordinary higher consciousness to the higher divine consciousness, and then bring down that higher supramental power of the divine consciousness down into the ignorance of the mind, life, and body, so that the transformation can happen. So to achieve this, integral yoga gave the path of it gives the entire path and the step-by-step process that how it can be done, how the consciousness can be evolved, how it can be transformed, and how that transformation can yield the transformation of the material world. So this is what he has presented in his integral yoga and in his writings as the aim of integral yoga. So the first objective of integral yoga is to make the inner purification of the mind and heart through the vital, mental, moral, or aesthetic discipline and eliminate all forms of resisting tendencies like inertia, laziness, violence, greed, lust. This is very, very important because without the purification, the higher consciousness cannot work, or it finds the hurdles in it and it cannot work, or it cannot do the transformation. So that is why establishing the purification and the silence of the mind is very, very crucial. Now, once we achieve this purification and the of the outer consciousness and establish the inner peace, integral yoga aims in opening the inner higher consciousness and live in that inner consciousness. So, Sri Aurobindo described that similar to our outer consciousness, there is a inner consciousness. There are layers of inner consciousness which need to be connected to do the purification and transformation. Then he described the next step as the bringing of the inmost psychic beings. The psychic being, what he has described as the evolutionary soul, which is there inside deep within the heart or behind the heart. So what he has said that we have to bring out the psychic being, we have to connect with it, and by the power of that psychic being, we can change the higher mind, vital, and body consciousness so that it can receive the higher consciousness to transform the material consciousness by using its divine knowledge, will, and love. And ultimately, by doing all these things, we will get the divine life manifested upon the earth. So that is what is the aim of the integral yoga. What is straightforward by. Now, doing all these things, we find a couple of concepts. So we will just see those things and we will see it in more detail later. So these are the concepts what he has introduced or what integral yoga introduces, like for manifestation of divine life, that is the evolution, the psychic being, supermind, transfer. So these are the words what we'll try to understand what does it mean actually. So integral yoga gives the concept of involution, that it says that the involution has happened, that is the higher consciousness which we saw as the Satchidananda in his model has been involved into the lower consciousness, involved into the lower physical matter and the inconscient in the process of manifestation. The other concept here is given is the evolution, which is the process by which this involved consciousness, which has got merged or which has got lost or which has got veiled in the material world or the inconscient, to get it evolved get it liberated from the matter and bring out the life from the matter, and from life it evolves further to the mind, and the next evolution is going to happen in the mind to supermind. So that is the concept of evolution he has presented. The transformation talks about the shifting of the consciousness, and that can be brought at the universal level by the supramental consciousness alone. That is by the bringing down the supramental consciousness and allowing it to work through the individual being. The individual being can be transformed, and then through that they can become the channel for the transformation, and the entire world can be transformed. The concept of psychic being has been introduced, which is the divine spark within inside our body, and it is the evolutionary element with us. Goes life after life, evolving, knowingly or unknowingly, we are getting evolved through the generations, through the life after life. And it grows by the higher consciousness as it receives the higher consciousness, or it receives the consciousness of love, peace, light, and bliss. The another concept is the supermind, what he has introduced, because traditional yoga doesn't talk about it. It has got a little mention by some sages, but they didn't give any elaboration about supermind, which is a term given by Sri. So supermind is the dynamic aspect of divine consciousness. The traditional yoga, as we see, they talks about only Satchitananda, that is the static consciousness. Whereas Sri Aurobindo has introduced the concept of supermind, which is the dynamic consciousness, which is the truth consciousness with all knowledge that created this physical world. So this is some comparison between these two yoga systems, that is the traditional yoga systems and the integral yoga system, what we see. So the traditional yoga system, we see that the aim of this yoga is only divine realization, moksha, nirvana, whereas the integral yoga system talks about not only divine realization but the evolution, supramental descent, transformation, and establishing the life. So traditional yoga, truly speaking, starts where the traditional yoga ends. So that is where the integral yoga starts. There are various skirts or the paths what we have seen, that Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, all these are the things which have been evolved over this over a period, over the so many years of the research. Integral Yoga doesn't have any streams or cult, but it is also known by the other names called Integral Yoga or Purna Yoga or the Yoga of Transformation. There are the key concepts in traditional yoga, that is Satchidananda, Jivatman, which is self, then Antaratman, the soul, or the chakra and Kundalini, and opening of that. Whereas in integral yoga, we have the concept not only of Satchidananda, but there is additional concept of supermind, then there is self, which is the divine self, then there is a psychic being, which is the evolving soul, and there are various planes of consciousness which is not which is not introduced in traditional yoga, and also the concept of involution and evolution, which use actually the secret of manifestation. So traditional yoga has got only the three planes, or it only describes about the three bodies of five koshas. So this is the way how the traditional yoga has established itself. Whereas in integral yoga, we find multiple planes like supermind, overmind, higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, mind, vital, physical, subconscious. So all these planes have been explained by integral yoga and has been to the depth what are those things and how is the manifestation has happened. There are various techniques given by the traditional yoga, which we have seen, that meditation, pranayama, chakra openings, or kundalini awakening. But that integral yoga doesn't talk about all these things. It doesn't say that the chakra opening is necessary for this, but it says that chakra opening is happens eventually when we work on the by using the other techniques. So it use the techniques of concentration, inner and outer, aspiration, rejection, opening of the psychic being, and the divine grace. We will see all these things, what integral yoga is telling us in more details as we go ahead. So this is the way how we can compare these two. So the traditional yoga way is to escape this world by achieving the one with the union or divine union with the divine. Whereas the integral yoga doesn't stop there. It doesn't say that the union with the divine or the moksha is the aim of life, but the transformation of the world by bringing the higher consciousness to this world is the essential and the important aim. So doing this, it solves the riddle of the universe, what is the purpose of human existence and human evolution, and the creation of this entire cosmos. So we will just go through all these things one by one. Now to begin our exploration, we have to establish our new perspective by now since we understand all this traditional yoga, integral yoga and the scientific view and the various scientific evolutions, we will establish our new perspective. We know that there are radio signals which are all around us, but we are not able to see that. We are not able to see that because we don't have the equipment or the instruments or the technology built within ourselves to decode those signals. Like what your mobile or what your radio can do is not possible for you alone by listening to those radio stations or the mobile communication and understand as it is. But the mobile phone or the radio does that. So because it has got the mechanism to receive those frequencies and to transform it to meaningful signals. Now, what I did in doing this research is that I have analyzed this all this scientific concept and then compared with this with the findings of the uh, integral yoga, and then by comparing two, we are coming to our new perspective. So, what we see that there are the various planes of or the various frequency spectrum available into or this science has named it, okay, used for different application and all, ranging from few kilohertz to gigahertz. Similarly, on the other side of what we see that there are multiple planes of consciousness, what integral yoga teaches us. So this broader plane of seven planes, what we see that Satchidananda, the Brahman, the supermind, mind, vital, physical, all these things are further segregated into different planes of consciousness. And so on the one side we have the frequencies, other side we have similarly these planes of consciousness. So this is the one similarity. Another we see in these terms of the chakra petals and the antenna radiation pattern. So traditional yoga, the sages and those who have gone advanced in this, they have elaborated that what are those chakras and how they look like. So what they have found out that there are seven main chakras like Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, and all these chakras have the different petals. So they are looking like the petals. They named it as the petals because they visualize it as the petals of what they see in the material world like the flowers. So they are recorded that it is a four petal chakra Muladhara, or the Swadhisthana is six petal chakra, Manipura is 14 petals, and Sahasrara is having the thousand petals. Agya chakra or Ajna chakra is two petals. So this is what the traditional yoga or the sages has given us in their findings. On the contrary, when you compare it with the antenna radiation pattern, we also have the similar things. What is established by science? Like there are the antennas which are having the four lobes. Look at these antenna lobes and look at the petals. So that the way we have the four petals, we have the antenna having the four lobes, or having the six lobes, or having the multiple lobes. Or there is a omnidirectional pattern which is represent like a sahasrara of thousand petals. Or there is a dipole pattern having the two lobes like a cap. So we can see that the chakra and the antenna, they are looking similar. So this is the another interesting finding. Then we see also that there are frequency has got the different colors, like our visible spectrum has the different colors. On the same way, we also see that these chakras also have the similar colors. Like we see that there is a red color for the Muladhara chakra, or deeper purple red for the Swadhisthana, or the blue color for the Sahasrara, and white color for. So all this is similar finding that what frequency is also having, chakras is also showing us. Another interesting thing is that how this Kundalini rises happens. So those who have experience of Kundalini rising, they have illustrated it that Kundalini rises from Muladhara and reaches to Sahasrara, but it doesn't rise straightforward once it is activated. What happens is that first it reaches to the next station, say Muladhara, then to Swadhisthana, then again falls back. Again rise to Manipura, again fall back, goes to another, fall back, again goes to Vishuddha or Agya, fall back, and finally it reaches Sahasrara. So it is the gradual rising of the Kundalini which happens actually when the chakras open one by one. When you compare this process with the tuning of the receiver, we have all used this radio receiver which we are aware about. By using the long distance system of radio signal, we struggle to tune it and we have to tune it. We have to using the tuning knob and then we receive it somehow at one spot we get the higher frequency and then we can listen to the audio. So the tuning process is also similar. Okay, what is there inside this radio signal or the radio instrument is the tuner actually, which consists of the variable capacitor inductor. And by changing this variable capacitor, we are changing the frequency, resonant frequency of this circuit, and we can tune it to receive the desired frequency. And once we achieve that, we stay there and we can listen. So what we see that the way we are tuning these radio signals or same thing, the chakras are getting tuned to the receiving these signals from these different planes of consciousness, and that is similarity which is there between the radio receiver and this chakra and the system of reception. The another thing is that awakening of Kundalini Shakti is a sudden event. So this has been noted by many yogis that Kundalini doesn't rise slowly. It is like a burst of energy coming and inflowing to you. This happens when there is intense sadhana, pranayama or shaktipat, and or even without making any recourse due to the previous life's tapasya or the divine grace. So it is a sudden opening. It is not that it opens with your efforts. Okay. Now, when you look at the radio station, there is those who have worked on the radio system or communication. They would have noticed that as you tune, there is a sudden burst of energy, and you can see the good great signal. Okay. So this is another similarity between these two. So what we have done is that we have compared chakras and antenna together, and we find that the chakras works the similar way the way antenna works for the physical system of receiving the radio receiver, and that is what antenna is doing to receive the signal in the physical domain on the physical material structure. The same thing is done by chakras in the subtle domain. Chakras has got their patterns like antenna has got their direction patterns. Okay, the chakras are also associated with the beat mantra, okay, uttering which one can get the very different tune to the various vibration of that plane of consciousness and receive that consciousness. And receiving that consciousness, we can get the energy or that signals from that plane. The opening process also we have seen that there is a spark of energy. And there are various methods given by the Tantra and the other traditional yoga systems, and by like practicing asana, bandhas or pranayama. All these methods are impacting the pressure on your chakras so that they get tuned and start receiving the signal. So this we have seen, the process of getting awareness goes like this. Like there is various techniques, meditation, pranayama, bandhas, quietening or calming the mind, and then chakra opens, then there is a plane of consciousness and the kundali opening and kundali rising to chakras and giving the ultimate thing, that is what we call the awareness. Same thing happens in the communication receiver system. What we see is the antenna, then filter tuning, then we see that spurious and the harmonies are getting reduced, the noise is getting reduced, then there is a frequency synthesizer, there is a demodulator, amplifiers, signal booster, and then the signal is decoded to give nothing but the knowledge. Knowledge in the form we understand. We have seen that the process of meditation helps in quietening the mind, and the pranayama with the different bandhas can introduce the pressure so that then it get tuned. The chakras, the shape of petal can change and the chakras can get tuned so that it can receive this energy from that consciousness. So all these findings lead us to the conclusion and stating our hypothesis or the new perspective. So this is the thing what is again presented in the form of tabular, that how this. So this is all available in the books. We can go through it. Okay. And this ultimately what we arrive is to the conclusion that the way there are different bands in frequency, there are higher planes of consciousness. The process of opening is similar. The antenna lobe and chakras is petals is similar, and then the chakra petals are like antenna lobes showing the energy distributions. Similarly, the sahasrara is the omnidirectional pattern indicating the presence of universal consciousness. So what we see that the two things are almost similar, that the frequency and consciousness, and we can use what we know about the frequency to understand these writings in integral yoga about the consciousness and about the various technique and solve the mystery of creation. However, the frequency doesn't mean that it is a consciousness, because consciousness is much more than that, and it has got the intelligence, it has got the force to execute, and it has got the self-knowledge to understand everything at once. Whereas frequency is what we have named it and we have used it for our purpose, but it is useful for us, and this concept will be, or the perspective will be useful to analyze the understanding of our yoga. So with this new perspective and understanding all these things, we can now get into the more deeper in our explorations. So we can see the writings of Sri Aurobindo, what he has written about chakras, and then we can analyze that by our understanding of this and the new perspective. So what Sri Aurobindo tells us that the center of consciousness, the chakras, it is by their opening that the yogic or the inner consciousness develop. So Sri Aurobindo says that chakras is the keys to get into the inner consciousness, develop it, so that with the help of that we can get aware about the higher consciousness and get it down for the required aim of the. So he has described the location of chakras, where they lie and how they are spread into the body. So what he has to say is that, so now onwards we are going to explore only on the integral yoga, so that and his writings, so that then we understand the integral yoga in a deeper way. So Sri Aurobindo, so all this what you will find is the writings of Sri Aurobindo, which has been grabbed and put it here, so that we can understand it and we can find the hidden meaning behind it and we can visualize all that thing. So what he has said, that chakras are the energy centers in the subtle body attached to the spinal cord. So this gives us the location that it is in the subtle body, okay, not visible to us because it is in the subtle, and it is around the it is attached to the spinal cord. Sahasrara is above the head. It is not located inside the body, but it is above the head. It is the center of communication between the individual being and the infinite consciousness above. This is the entry point of the passage between the body, mind, life consciousness and the higher consciousness above. So that is why the opening of Sahasrara, opening of this lid is very, very crucial to get down the higher consciousness or get awareness about it. Then he described about Brahmarandra, which is the little opening which is located on the top of the head. It is a small opening through which the communication between the higher consciousness above and the lower consciousness in the body takes place. Then another important chakra for the higher consciousness is the Agya chakra, which is between the eyebrows. And when it opens the inner mind and inner vision, and one can see the lights and get the occult vision and the occult power. So this is the power of Agya chakra to see the higher vision, whereas Sahasrara gives the awareness about the higher consciousness of us. So this is all the summary of the all these chakras, and we can see that how these chakras have been described by Sri Aurobindo. Like he has given all that about the chakras, and you can have a look at it in the book in more details presented to us. So we'll just take a look at the summary of all these things. Okay, so we have seen all these things. The chakras are also illustrated in the traditional yoga, but traditional yoga shows only about this what is encapsulated into this red square. That it gives about the chakras, name of the chakras, then petals, number of petals, location, and then color. Whereas Sri Aurobindo has given it's a deeper meaning that what is the meaning of this chakra, what is its functionality, and how they are connected to the higher consciousness. So Sahasrara is what he has said that it is connected to the higher consciousness. That is, all the planes above the mind are accessible only through this. That is Satchitananda, super mind, lower mind, intuition mind, new mind. So all these are the planes of consciousness. We are again going to revisit them in our exploration in the consciousness. So for the time being, because we are going through the chakras, we will understand that how these are connected together. So Sahasrara is connected to the higher consciousness, and so the super mind, which has got the gradation of lower mind, intuition mind, inner mind, or the higher mind. The Agya Chakra is connected to the mind and the higher mind, or the thinking, planning, and expressive. The Vishuddha Chakra is connected with the expressive. Anahata is connected to the vital. These lower three chakras, that is Anahata, Manipura, and Swadhisthana, are connected to the vital, that is higher vital, middle vital, and lower vital. Whereas Muladhara is connected to the physical layer. So that is how all these chakras are connected, and all they are having the specific purpose of opening the physical consciousness, or the higher vital, or the mind consciousness, or the higher dynamic consciousness of getting the vision and thought of the higher planes, and finally the center part connecting with the supramental and the Satchidananda consciousness, so that then we can get this. Once we get connected, then we can get it downloaded, or they can flow through it, and we can get the transformation and the preparation of the lower consciousness. So that is the beauty integral yoga describes in the about the role of chakras, and how they are connected with the various layers of consciousness, and how they are useful or the important for this yoga. But Sri Aurobindo also tells us that opening of this chakra is not the aim. It is not necessary also for the integral yoga that to strive to open those chakras. And like traditional yoga says, the opening of the chakra is a key, and Kundalini is a key. Sri Aurobindo discarded that, and he says that opening of chakra is not essential for getting these things. But he says that those chakras will get open automatically as the higher consciousness get down, descends from above, and by the power of that, the chakras which come on the way will get open one by one. So it is a top-down process. Instead of bottom-up process into the traditional yoga, this is the top-down process in integral yoga of opening of the chakras, and the top-down process is can open the higher chakra first and then lower chakra, so that by opening of the higher chakras, and we have the better control over the lower chakras, and then it is not destructive for the yoga or the person doing the yoga. So in integral yoga, as the chakras opening is done, then the chakras are opened once the higher consciousness, the higher chakras are open, and then the psychic being has stepped in front, so that it will make the entire body or entire body mind vital for receiving these higher consciousness and the influx of energy, because this energy is a tremendous energy which can destroy everything otherwise. Okay, so to sustain that, this is essential that the higher chakra first get opens, and then psychic being comes forward, so that it can take the control of the yoga, and then it can regulate the transformation of the mind body vital to effect the transformation. How does this happen actually? So integral yoga gives us the way of doing this. That is the way of opening to the higher consciousness, which is done through the concentration, aspiration, rejection, and surrender. And this will make us ready for receiving the pressure, breathing slowly and steadily, and get ready and get pure to absorb the higher consciousness. So the purpose of the opening of the chakra is similar, but it is the way is different, and that's how the integral yoga differs here. As and once the chakras are opened, the chakras can receive the signal, and through nadis, which are the subtle nadis, the signals can go to the brain, and we can get the experience of the higher consciousness. The further explorations is about the key writings about the chakras, what Srinivendra has said, what he has said about the chakras, and these writings are very, very important actually, so that we should understand it and we should contemplate on this and we should know the meaning behind it, so that then we can really appreciate and we can do the development in that direction. So what he has says, he has given the where is the location of that, and he has also said that one can speak of the chakras only in reference to yoga. In ordinary people, the chakras are not open, and you remain in ordinary consciousness or the material consciousness as long as the chakras are not open. So to get into the sadhana or to get into the integral yoga or get into the higher consciousness, the opening of chakra is very, very crucial. And the opening should be done the way he has illustrated. So it is by opening of the chakras that the yogic or the higher consciousness can be developed. Otherwise, they are born to the ordinary or the outer consciousness only. One doesn't pass through the psychic center or any other center during the sadhana. The centers open under the pressure of the sadhana. So he has explained here that how they are opened. They are opening by the pressure of the sadhana, by the pressure of your concentration, by the pressure of your aspiration, will, and the reaction of the lower nature signals. So what you say that you can say that the force descent or ascent into a center. It doesn't say that one passes through the center, but the force descent or ascent to the center. So that means that there is a force all around us, and it can come down through Sahasrara and go down through the all the chakras through the Muladhara from the top to bottom, or it can go from bottom to top also as in the traditional yoga. But the safer way is to get right down from the top down, so that one is safe in doing this sadhana. So in summary, the integral yoga describes that the chakras are centers of consciousness, and if chakras are not open, one is only in the material world or only in this lower consciousness, and it is very, very essential to open the chakras if one wants to progress into this sadhana. So when the Kundalini opens from above and below, have the free passage through the centers, which is represented by the spine appearing like a serpent. So that is what many yogis have explained, that it looks like a serpent or it is experienced as a serpent inside the body. And it happens so because the chakras are spread over the body around the spinal cord, and our spinal cord itself is, as you know, that is looks like a serpent. Okay, and that's how when the chakra and there is illumination because of the kundalini, it appears like the passage. It appears like a serpent. So it has got a free passage when the chakra is open and the energy can flow. The importance of crown chakra is described here, that crown center opens and removes the difficulty of the lead between the ordinary mind and the higher consciousness above. If the Eka chakra is also open, then it is possible to have the clear communication between the higher consciousness and the inner mind and the outer mind. So all these things, when we are reading, we have to contemplate on this wording actually, that how this crown center is operating, or how Agya Chakra is operating, and how we are connected to the multiple layers of the consciousness. By connecting means they are getting tuned and they are getting started receiving it, and then those signals are ultimately going through the nadis to our brain, and we are getting aware about it. So that's how the whole process of this opening works. The heart center commands the cyclic vital, and that opening enables the cyclic influence to work in the vital. So it is not recommended to open it first, because if we have the inrush from the vital, then there will be a lot of unwanted forces getting inside the heart, and that may be disturbing. So that is why first higher chakras need to be opened, and then the lower chakras will automatically be controlled or open in a controlled way. The psychic being, which is a part of the same higher divine consciousness, comes forward. So here the psychic being is an important aspect in our yoga, which is there as an evolving soul, and it is also part of the same higher divine consciousness, and that's how it can get tuned to that higher consciousness, and it can grow with that higher consciousness and build and come forward and then control the sadhana or the transformation. So here in this writings, Integral Yoga describes about the brain. It's only the center of physical consciousness located in the head. So he describes about what is the brain actually. So he says that brain is not the, it is only the center of physical consciousness and connected to the different sense organs, giving the experience of physical world. So that's how that is the role of the brain, that it is not having the consciousness, it doesn't develop the consciousness, but it is only the instrument like your computer that will analyze and present it. Okay, so that is how the functioning of the brain happens. This Sahasrara, the seventh chakra, is above the head. It is not inside the body, but above the head, and it is opening to it, will be opening to the higher divine consciousness. And when it opens, the one starts getting the higher consciousness, and the brain becomes a channel of communication between Sahasrara and Ajna to get the awareness. So this is how Sri Aurobindo described the role of opening and the role of brain, and then the role of Agya Chakra to visualize everything, the awareness about the higher consciousness. In this writings, he has described about the various mind consciousness, that he says that there are many centers are associated with the mind, like the physical mind, there is spiritual mind, intuitive mind, over mind, and how the Sahasrara and Ajna Chakra are connected to this place of consciousness. So that is what is described here. We have described that this higher chakras like Sahasrara and Ajna are connected to the higher consciousness, whereas the lower consciousness is connected to the vital and lower vital fields. The throat center is associated with the physical mind for externalizing the, whereas Agya Chakra in the forehead is the center for inner thoughts, will and vision. Sahasrara is connected to the higher mind, in mind and lower mind. So Chakra receives the consciousness, energy, knowledge belonging to that higher plane, and when the psychicized higher mental being, which is connected to this higher divine self above, the inner psychic being behind heart, one becomes aware about getting the insight of the truth. So that is what he has explained everything about the chakras and about how they are connected with the higher consciousness, and how the chakra plays a role in receiving those things and giving us the awareness. So, Integral Yoga has described the process of opening of the chakras, which is the top-down process here. That the usual rule in this yoga is the opening should happen from above, and then it should open from top to bottom. There may be variations in these preparatory stages. There may be, instead of partial opening, first of the heart center. So that is what he has also mentioned, that sometimes some heart center also opens, or sometimes the heart center also may open. But if the lower center is open, then it will in the shock the vital forces, and there is a more struggle and difficulty. So it is recommended to open the higher consciousness first to get the controlled evolution. The integral yoga also about the transformation of consciousness and the supramental plane, which is above the over mind, is the key to connect the divine consciousness, Satchidananda. So, this is what we have seen about the chakras, that how they are connected, and this is the summarized view of the chakras that we can put it and we can understand the importance of this. So all this is explained in the books, and you can go through it, and then you can get aware about the true meaning of what the chakras and so with the new perspective, as we have seen that new perspective helps us to understand the role of chakras acting as like the way antenna acts and the way signals are received. The same way the chakras and the inner consciousness works to receive the higher consciousness through the chakras. So this is all about the chakras, and we have seen that integral yoga tells us about all these things and gives a great detail about this. So having aware about all these things, now we can embark onto our next journey about the mystery of consciousness, decoding it further, and exploring about which we will go through in the next part, that is tomorrow morning, and where we will understand the different consciousness, the layers of consciousness, the supermind, the different gradations of the supermind, and then how these are related with the current technological evolvement of the neuroscience, or the how the creation is evolved or established, what science tests through the Big Bang theory, how that was explained by the integral yoga the way before the Big Bang theory was introduced. So all these things we will have it, in the tomorrow session. And we also have the this book is available actually online on the Amazon, and you can take it. For those who are interested to get it now, also you can take a look at it and get it. So this with this, I think we can stop here, and I will leave for you some questionings if you have some doubts or want to know.